How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gans, your host of Tier Talk, and I just want to mention that I read a great article today from the Charlotte Observer. Author was Ames Alexander and Gavin Off, and it's an article about correctional officers sleeping on the job, but it highlights a very objective perspective. Talks about the dangers, but it doesn't just blame the officer for falling asleep on the job. There's more to it than that. And I think it's a great perspective that we need to explore. So stand by for my sponsors, and when I come back, let's talk about this article.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it, it's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Being a corrections officer takes its toll on even the strongest individuals. The constant need to perform at the highest level, putting your life at risk in a hostile environment, and the mental scarring of traumatic experiences. 31% of corrections officers show symptoms of PTSD, and 66% of people with PTSD also suffer with a substance abuse problem. The Transformations First Responders program is specially designed to help veterans and officers heal from the grips of addiction and PTSD in a comfortable, supportive, and serene setting. You are not alone. If you have questions about the services we offer, give us a call at 866-762-8454 to get more information on this affordable and life-changing program.
So again, what a great article written by Ames Alexander and Gavin Off. It's an article related to the dangers of officers sleeping in the workplace, but it also looks to highlight an objective perspective of responsibility, which means that, yeah, for sometimes it is the officer to blame. You know, you fell asleep on duty. There's no reason for it during your regular work week. You aren't exhausted from overtime from the nights before, or in some cases you volunteered to work the overtime. So this video isn't for you. It's not a video that's going to help your argument. It's a video for those who are exhausted because they keep on getting mandated. They're working 16-hour days, 4 or 5 days a week. It's these officers that wind up getting in trouble, but it's these officers that have a right to be exhausted. And again, they're a product of understaffed facilities. Right now, management's in a scramble, right? They don't have the proper incentive to keep experienced officers in. They don't have the proper incentive to invite professionals to want to take this job, so the numbers are lessening. And part of the concern that's going to start trickling down are officers that are exhausted. That's putting the public at risk. So again, we know right now we're talking about manpower, coverage, making sure that we have the right amount of people to cover those inmates. And this is part of that. The exhaustion, all because you have officers in those positions. It may not mean that they are able to do the position. Again, if you have management hiring out of desperation, quantity, got to get those numbers to fill those posts, and they don't care about the quality of the individual, they just care about got to get those numbers to fill those posts. This is going to be another effect that we have to take seriously. And if we keep on shifting the blame on the officer, knowing that they committed themselves to 16-hour days, 4 or 5 days a week, we're not going to fix the problem here. We're not. Responsibility also has to travel up to those who put those people in those positions. Saying, hey, did you walk by? Did you check on this officer? How'd they look? Did the officer say they were tired? How many shifts did they work beforehand? What was their work week like this week? How many hours have they put in? So do you think it was in your best interest to put that person on this post tonight when that person fell asleep? Again, it's not to minimize responsibility of people who volunteer, who say they're able to do it, or people who do it during the regular work week without no reason for exhaustion. Because they didn't work, they didn't get mandated, they're just, fall asleep because that's what they do. This video is not for you. This video is for those who just keep on getting mandated, or they're tired. And then they're held responsible when they fall asleep. But the problem here is, did we look at their kind of work week that they had? How many hours that they've committed themselves to? So this is a great article because it presents that perspective that's needed that will create serious change. It shifts some of the responsibility to the people who are responsible for putting that person in the post or responsible for keeping that people at that post. Keeping those officers at that post, knowing that this person's tired. So again, you're putting the life of the inmates at risk, because I know some people look at the inmates first, but you're also putting the life of the officer, the integrity of the facility at risk. I trust you as a frontline officer to put the right person in that position so I can be protected. You put an officer that can't keep his eyes open, it just doesn't feel right. You're putting my life at risk. You're putting the inmates that they're paid to protect at risk. So this article is a great objective perspective, because now, instead of automatically blaming the officer for falling asleep on the post, let's look at the context. Let's look at the context. Is the officer 100% at fault? That's the key. That's the importance of this video. And that's what's going to wind up creating real change. Because it's easier to sit there and blame the officer 100% of the time. But again, what have we done to change anything? We're not. We fire the officer, but that's just a symptom. What have we done to get to the disease, the root of the disease? That's when we have to start looking at the understaffed facilities, how many hours these officers are working, and start holding people responsible that may go above the officer, because that officer was put into that position, and record shows how many hours that person had put in already. And the officer did not volunteer, they were mandated. So now we have to start looking at the individuals who mandated that person to stay. Because mind you, when someone gets mandated, that's because some way they refuse to work. Because maybe in this case, the officer said, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. I've worked 4 16-hour shifts this week. And we mandated that individual anyway. Great perspective. Good article. As always, guys, the show is Tear Talk. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like, interact, engage. Voice is getting heard. Love you guys. Anthony Ganji. Take care.